Welcome to Community Liberation Podcast, a podcast about applying revolutionary theory to revolutionary practice. My name is Silvia, and I'm an organizer from Community Liberation Programs, or CLP. We are a multinational scientific socialist mass organization based in the San Francisco Bay Area. We currently run decolonization programs in Oakland and San Francisco, such as our Oakland Chinatown grocery distribution and our San Francisco Mission Youth Street Medic program. We also hold public political education events and classes. To learn more about our programs, you can follow us on Instagram at Community Liberation Programs and Twitter at ComLibPrograms. And you can support our Buy Me a Coffee and Give Better in the show notes. This podcast and other decolonization programs for the people are 100% funded by grassroots donations like yours. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about Black August. It is later in the month in August, and we decided to put out a second podcast episode, for our observation of Black August. Being more committed to organizing is one of the things we'll talk about as an aspect of what you do during Black August. But yeah, today I'm joined with Geraldo again, and we're just gonna talk about how we have been observing Black August, what is Black August, and we're gonna have an event, as well as a statement from a political prisoner at the end of the show. So yeah, I guess Geraldo, I'll have you kind of start with how has your Black August been going, things that you've been doing.
Yeah, I'll get started. Yeah, Geraldo here. Happy to be back on. And, Black August has been going well for me. Just in general, things have been going well. It's just been a really busy month. I guess I can kind of just start on, some of the things I've been really focusing on this month has been reading a lot more. My overall goal this year has been to read more than I have in the last year. And so this month I've read a couple of good texts. One of them I finished recently, which was the Dialectics of Black Power by Robert L. Allen. And I also just started his recent book, Black Awakening in Capitalist America, which was a book that came out right after he wrote The Dialectics of Black Power. I'm also reading... I just finished All Power to the People by Albert Noah Washington, which was really good. I'd recommend people to read that book as well. I think it's free on Freedom Archive or Internet Archive. And then just been a lot of organizing, a lot of planning for obviously our Black August event, which we'll talk about later in this podcast at the end of the podcast that we've been working on and planning. So that's been kind of something we've been working on since last month. And it's ready to go for this next weekend. And then the other things have been working with other organizations and planning things and planning our own political education and all these other things that we can't really talk about at the moment, but you'll probably see announcements later in the future about CLP. But yeah, Sylvia, how are you doing and how was your Black August?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty great, actually. I feel like this month I've really honed in on dedicating myself to all of the different aspects of Black August, more than I have in previous years, which has been good. One thing I think I could do a little bit more of is study. I am reading 3 books at one time right now, and I haven't fully completed any texts yet this month, or I guess 4 books right now. One is a non-political book, won't really get into because it's not relevant to this podcast. But the other 3, one I will definitely finish, is Blood in My Eye for, I don't know how many times I've read it, but for the whatever amount of time I have. And yeah, that's been going really great. We've been reading it internally. We'll get into that probably in the CLP section. And I've been keeping up with the reading every week, getting it done on time, coming with questions, really thinking my way through it, because when you reread a book, sometimes it can be not hard to come up with questions, but I think it's just interesting to see yourself progress from when you read it before and then when you're reading it now, especially the first time you've ever read it, and how your politics have changed and how you interpret some of the things that George Jackson is talking about and how useful they are for us. So, yeah, it's been pretty great. I'm still chugging along through Capital Volume 1. I'm about almost halfway done now. That one I've put a little bit on the back burner, which I want to pick up again for this last week and really dedicate myself to reading for the last week of Black August. And then I am also listening to a text on John Brown by W.E.D. Du Bois, and that one is very just straightforward historical analysis of John Brown, who was a white man alive in the U.S. in the 1800s, and he worked a lot with kind of basically killing slave owners and helping with slave revolts and things. And it kind of goes over like the history of his children and like who he was as a person, and he was very it's just interesting. He didn't seem like a lot of the white men around at that time, and like he wasn't a very like patriarchal father either, so there's not a lot of information on him. I think like a lot of history has been lost, but it is a good book to listen to, just very casually. But yeah, and then for organizing for Fight, I have been doing a lot of organizing. The things I can't really discuss on the podcast yet, but I'm putting like a lot of hours into CLP, and then also our Chinatown program, putting in a lot of hours to that and trying to expand, get more produce, all these extra things that go into that program to make it run. And then, yeah, just managing our organizers and membership and working with them. Been doing a lot of that internal stuff this month. And yeah, I've been trying to exercise a lot more too. So I've been trying to go to the gym more than I usually do. I went on a run this morning. I haven't run in over a month, so that one, trying to bike and run, get my cardio in and become a more disciplined person with exercise and not be lazy. So yeah, that's how I've been doing for Black August. Definitely better than my previous years. I'm also fasting sugar again. I've done that. I did that last year, and it's been pretty easy. I think I already don't eat a lot of sugar, but just getting sugar from fruit has been pretty nice because August is like one of my favorite fruit months. I really like melons, so I've been eating a lot of melons this month. But yeah, Geraldo, I'll pass it back to you on what is Black August. I want the listeners to kind of understand. I've given some hints about what it is, but maybe just like the history of it, how it started, and how people observe it today.
Yeah, so Black August is a commemoration, a month of observation of struggle and resistance for New Africans in the prison system, but also beyond that. I'll go a little bit more into that. This is also, not to say that, a lot of the folks that were organizing Black August identified themselves or, were conscious New Africans, but a lot of people that have observed Black August are New Africans, and also non-New Africans as well. One thing I do want to know is that, and you'll probably, folks who are listening, and you probably have seen some organizations or individuals or people talking about Black August as a holiday, and I've seen it too. I saw recently. I saw this one individual on Instagram Reels saying that Black August is their favorite month of the year. It's their favorite holiday of the year. And one thing that when Black August started, that they wanted it to be a commemoration and a month of observation for um, there's a lot more things I'll go into, but like a lot of specific days in Black August that are like super important that we really want to touch upon. So yeah, Black August, it officially actually started in San Quentin. So folks in the Bay Area, you probably seen San Quentin. It's kind of hard not to see San Quentin. It's pretty, right in your face, right next to obviously the heart of the Bay Area, San Francisco, and just across the bay from Oakland. And it started in August 1979. It was founded by the Black August Organizing Committee as well as the Black Guerrilla Family. And it is a month to commemorate the history of obviously the prison movement, as well as other key moments in the New African Independence movement before like 1979, going all the way back until when the first New Africans were forcibly shipped to the so-called I guess at the time it wasn't called the United States, but the colonies here, as well as things that beyond. There's been a lot of moments of things that have happened after August 1979. So one of the main things about Black August is there is a kind of major touch point, August 21st, 1971, which was the assassination, martyrdom of George Jackson. And that's what really kind of set the stage for the development of Black August. But there's also more to that as well. But George Jackson and Jonathan Jackson, their martyrdoms are a significant kind of touch point in Black August. And I guess I can touch on that a little bit. So who was George Jackson? So George Jackson was a political prisoner, or a political prisoner. I don't really care to go into the discussion of like what is a political prisoner or politicized prisoner of all this stuff like that. He was a political prisoner. He became politicized in prison, but he overall became a political prisoner. He was a political prisoner, and he was a field marshal in the Black Panther Party, specifically for supporting and organizing prisoners within the prison system. I'm not going to go too deep into it because there's a lot more. If you're really interested in reading and learning more about George Jackson's life, I'd recommend reading Soledad Brother and Blood of My Eye. But he was a very prolific theorist as well as organizer, and prolific member of the Black Panther Party. His brother, Jonathan Jackson, he was 17 at the time when he attempted to free 3 prisoners, as well as take hostages of specific high-ranking people within the Marin County courthouse on August 7th. And he did succeed. He went into the Marin County courthouse, was able to obviously take hostages as well as free 3 prisoners. By the time he was able to get out of the Marin County courthouse, obviously the police and the militarized police did not want to have to deal with the aspect of a hostage exchange, and so decided that it was more worthwhile to just shoot down and kill whoever was in the van that he was going to get out of. To leave the Marin County courthouse, they decided to just basically light up the van and kill everyone inside. Besides, I think the surviving member was Rochelle McGee. And so, yeah, I know, and there's more to that as well. Like, if you're really interested in learning more about like that specific moment and like its relation to like the international anti-imperialist movement, there was a good podcast that was recently out by the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective, that had the author of Tip of the Spear. He was on talking about the connection between Jonathan Jackson and international anti-imperialist resistance, and why he decided to do a hostage exchange, which was a big thing throughout all of Latin America and also elsewhere. and it was successful. It also happened with the Palestinian liberation movement as well, taking hostages and trading them for political prisoners or specific members. Was a thing, and Ori really talks about that really well. But Black August really started after the death of Jeffrey Qatari Golden, after he was killed. You can say assassinated, you could say martyred. He was killed due to medical neglect, purposefully in San Quentin, after he injured. He had a head injury, and basically the guards didn't allow any medical attention to care for Golden. Golden was a prolific organizer within San Quentin at the time, as well as kind of carrying on the legacy of George Jackson. He was significantly inspired by George Jackson, and after the medical neglect and purposeful assassination of him, he succumbed to his to the injury that he had, and basically passed away. And so that was August 1st, and after that, the Black August Organizing Committee and the Black Guerrilla family, thought of Black August as a month of commemoration, starting with Qatari Golden, as well as George and Jonathan Jackson, and more. There's more to that as well. And there was something else I was going to touch on regarding that, but Black August is a month of commemoration. It's highlighted by 4 specific things: study, fight, train, and fast. I kind of mixed them up a little bit, but study New African political theory and revolutionary theory. Fast, fast from originally when the Black August Organizing Committee and the Black Guerrilla family thought of fasting. They obviously thought of fasting very much in the Islamic sense as well, like fasting from sunset to sundown. And
because
there's also,
wasn't it like Ramadan the first month of Black August?
I think so.
Was happening at the same time.
Yeah.
I heard that from a podcast recently or something online.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised too. And a lot of the folks that were obviously New African inside prison or Muslim. So yeah, they also had an aspect of no watching television, because television obviously was big in 1979 and 1970s in general. Really, that's the only way that most people got a lot of their media consumption was television, and they decided, no, you're going to fast television and you're going to be reading. There was other things as well, like fasting from specific foods, unhealthy foods, etc. There's also flea days, which I'll go into a little bit later, which are you're just fasting for the whole 24 hours. You're not eating, drinking any water. But the fasting can be however you can, fast from something. It's kind of up to the individual, but ultimately it's to refocus and focus your thoughts on struggle and organizing. So that was study, that was fast. Train, so obviously exercise, training to fight, training to do specific things, making yourself stronger to resist American imperialism, doing whatever you can to make yourself the most fit as you can be. Obviously these are like things you should be doing not just in the month of August, but beyond. But specifically in August, you should be kind of obviously focusing on that. So that was study, fast, train, and then fight, which is organizing and resisting, the so-called United States. So that can be obviously organizing, which, you can organize with CLP or other organizations that we will also have at the Black August event we're going to have. And, those are orgs that we have relationships with and recommend, or you can organize your own thing as well. But anything that is obviously focused on ending American imperialism in the so-called United States and bringing forth, the Republic of New Africa, etc. And so those are the 4 aspects of Black August. one thing I did want to touch on, because I'm just going back and forth, just things I'm thinking about, was actually after the assassination of George Jackson, a major thing actually happened right after that, which was there was a resistance and observation for the martyrdom of George Jackson in Attica, which was a hunger strike, a silent hunger strike, in the mess hall, and that was like kind of the one of the major kind of catalyst points that led to the Attica rebellion, which you can read in Tip of the Spear. I mean, it started before that with the Tombs Rebellion, but Tombs Rebellion, and then the assassination of George Jackson, the hunger strike, and then the Attica Rebellion happened. The revolt happened, which is a huge catalyst point and an aspect of Black August as well, and kind of goes beyond the month of Black August, but it is very much within the kind of the sphere of Black August. Yeah, I think that was a lot that I wanted to touch on, just like the history of Black August, but I don't know, there's other things I obviously missed. Yeah, Sylvia, if you want to touch on anything.
I think you touched on a lot of it, and I think like just to reiterate the point of Black August and it not being a celebration and not being a holiday, right? It's a commemoration, and really it's about political prisoners. You should be striving to be a more dedicated organizer, and like these 4 points are very good for us as organizers, as people in the so-called United States to be doing, but the point is to also, work with political prisoners, talk to political prisoners. We really want to focus on that this month, and that's going to be the point of our event, which we can get into and segue into now. Geraldo has another point though to add.
Yeah, I mentioned the Flea Days and then I didn't even talk about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Flea Days.
Yeah, so Flea Days, and no one really knows where the name Flea Days comes from. Most folks think it comes from the War of the Flea, War of the Flea, which was a guerrilla handbook, written in the 60s, if I'm correct, which was really inspirational for George Jackson. If you read Blood in My Eye, it's, he talks about guerrilla warfare and stuff like that, especially urban guerrilla warfare. But the Flea Days, so there are 4 of them. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to be eating or drinking any water on these specific days for 24 hours. The first one is obviously August 1st, 1978. Qatari Golden was assassinated, martyred due to medical neglect. The next one is just as I talked about, which was August 7th, 1970. The Marin Courthouse Rebellion with Jonathan Jackson, James McLean, and William Christmas were all martyred. And Rochelle McGee was taken prisoner again. And
he got out a few years ago,
I think it was 2023.
And then died like 6 months after.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he was quite old and also unhealthy.
Medical neglect.
Because of the medical neglect.
From the prisons, yeah.
Which is not uncommon. August 13th, which is a reference to W.L. Nolan, Alvin Fig Miller, Cleveland Edwards were assassinated by prison guards. And then following that is August 21st, 1971. George Jackson was assassinated by prison guards because of a so-called prison escape. But there's more to that. There's not a lot to the story. That there's a lot of things to that story that I won't get into. But there's also other important dates in Black August. August 1st is actually a major day in the Caribbean, which predominantly a lot of folks within the Caribbean are New African, which was Emancipation Day, which commemorates the anniversary of the abolition of slavery in in 1833. August 2nd is the birth of Chokwe Lumumba, which was he was a prolific and one of the founding members of the Republic of Africa. This is after Black August was kind of became a month of commemoration, but some of the MOVE members were also born in August as well. Additionally, Thomas Sankara was president on August 4th as well, 1983. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned in 1962. There was the Montgomery revolt that actually happened in 2023, if you remember that, with the white chair.
Yeah.
And the folks were like beating up all the white people. That was, I think that was a thing on Twitter where people were like, this is a day to commemorate in Black August. I just remember that. Mutulu Shakur was born August 8th. Mike Brown was killed by white police officer in Ferguson, 2014.
Yeah.
The Attica Rebellion, August 10th, but there's more to that as well, specifically with the Tombs Rebellion. The Watts riots happened, or uprising happened in August 11th. I think Marcus Garvey was born the 17th. Nat Turner's Rebellion was also on the 21st, which was also the day of assassination of George Jackson. And then the next day is the Haitian Revolution, which was August 22nd. And then August 22nd was also the death of Huey P. Newton. August 24th, and this is the inspiration for our event, which was the birth of, the death of Sophia Bukhari. She passed away August 24th, 2003. And there's even more to that as well. But those are just some of the major kind of things we wanted to kind of highlight. So the flea days and major events.
Yeah, August is a really big month.
Yeah. Cool. I guess we can go into. Sorry, I interrupted you, but we were gonna go into CLP. What is CLP doing for Black August?
Yeah,
Silvia.
Yeah, I can start us off. One of the things that we are doing for Black August, we have like internal reading groups. We have a lot of different internal political education that organizers go through when they first join the organization, and then we have internal reading groups so that we try to have year round. And this month, I already mentioned it, but our internal reading group is on Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. And we are reading about 45 pages-ish a week. And so we have one more reading that we will discuss tomorrow, actually, the last little quarter of the book. And yeah, it's been going well. I think everyone in the reading group, we have already read the text before, so it's very interesting to come back to. It's interesting to see how different theory is developed past George Jackson's time, and how when we first read the book, we had different analyses on specific sections. I don't know if we want to fully get into our analysis of Blood of My Eye. We still, it's still a required reading for CLP. It's still a very prolific text. It's a very important text for understanding the importance of guerrilla warfare, the importance of organizing and being a dedicated person, and understanding what fascism is and how to combat fascism and how it's designed to counter socialism, essentially. And, the importance of revolution over reform. There's just a lot of different... I feel like there's so many themes in the text, and it's so short that it really kind of encapsulates his political ideology right before he was assassinated. Because wasn't Blood on My Eye written
after his death? Is posthumous.
Yeah. So he was writing this right before he was assassinated. So yeah, it's just a very I think it's a great book for Black August. I highly recommend it because, you know, it's studying Black revolutionaries because it's part of the study, or New African, Black or New African. And it's also pretty short. So I feel like, you know, if you're not one to be good at keeping up with readings or you're struggling with reading, because a lot of people do, Blood in My Eye is a really good book to kind of get you familiar with different themes and different topics that you can further research on your own. And it's just I think it's a very personal text too, to see his letters that he's writing to Jonathan, that he's writing to his lawyer, you know, different people, and just like, it's kind of like not really stream of consciousness, but it feels a little bit like stream of consciousness. Mm-hmm. Like, there's obviously like structure in his writing, and he's a very good writer, but he's not holding back, and I think that's like a really important aspect of the text. You know, really understanding the importance of revolutionary violence, and I think he was definitely a product of his time. So. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Geraldo, did you want to add anything on our Blood in My reading group that we're doing?
Yeah, I guess, you know, one thing that we actually, I think one thing that's been really interesting is that this happens with reading groups in general, and I think this is just a good thing that you should be doing in general, is when you're reading any text, you should be tying it to the present moment and how you can utilize it. There's no purpose to read a book just to read a book, right? So one thing we actually did when we were reading the book is, and we won't go into this, we won't create a whole like critique combat liberalism thing on the letter that was released oh, no. yesterday or 2 days ago, which was also during the assassination of George Jackson, which was the 21st on Friday, but the long short of it, there was a letter that this basically fake organization called the Collective for Democracy in Iran.
Something like that.
Yeah, with like only like 100 followers or whatever, somehow got all these like prolific scholars to sign on to it. Some not so prolific. They wrote this, neither Tehran nor Washington thing about political prisoners, and how like political prisoners in Iran are between two sides of scissors or something like that. I don't know, some chat GPT written thing. I don't know. It was poorly written, and supposedly they actually, like, the way they got these signatures was through deceit. They actually gave the scholars, they gave them not what was actually going to be published. That's what Robin D.G. Kelly just recently spoke about, that like whatever was presented to him was not what was actually going to be published. It was published in The Guardian. It's an open letter. Conveniently, The Guardian is one of the major, imperialist propaganda papers that push the fake numbers of the amount of people that were genocided in Gaza, as well as pushing pro-Israeli Zionist entity propaganda against Palestinians, which is kind of convenient that a letter against Iran would be published in a Zionist rag like that. Anyhow, we talked about that. We actually talked about like the references, because a lot of these like things that came up with that paper actually come up similarly in George Jackson's discussions of like fascism, reform, talking about how reform is an aspect of fascism, and COP for the most part thinks that the United States, the so-called United States, has been fascist since its inception, since
76.
Yeah.
Or even before that,
Yeah.
Before
even
became
1492,
country, when the first settlers stepped foot on this land and thought of creating their own country separate from Britain.
So, anyhow, we talked about that, like how reform, and like we related it to this paper that was just released, and how like, that basically fascism creates a pseudo radical that they can push into the limelight to actually push pseudo radical politics. One in particular was Angela Davis that we actually went into quite a bit, and her relations with the CPUSA and all that other stuff, which you can read in Contextualizing Angela Davis by Joy James. We also talked about, the current wave of electoralism within the so-called left with the Democratic Zionists of America, as well as PSLs, candidates, and stuff like that, and like the utility of running candidates in this country, or really the lack of utility. Specifically, we went into like Mamdani and that kind of stuff, and also talked about when the Black Panther Party was doing electoralism, how that was also a mistake as well. Yeah, and then some other questions we were talking about, like we went in a whole thing about voting as well, neocolonialism. Guerrilla warfare is a kind of a major aspect at the beginning of the text too, so we went into that. And like kind of some of the texts that we've read about guerrilla warfare, which was one that I liked was Clausewitz and People's War by T. Durbin, I think is his name, which is published through Foreign Languages Press, which I thought was probably one of my most favorite books that I've read in the last couple of years. It was really insightful and interesting and whatnot. But we also talked about revolutionary culture. What is revolutionary culture? What is reactionary culture? How does culture actually, present itself? And how does it actually like dissuade people from revolution? And we actually did talk about the previous podcast that we recorded and I Love Boosters.
Oh yeah.
Because that was like right after we released it, and then we talked about it in the reading group and stuff like that. Then we talked about other things too, but one of the main things is like guerrilla warfare too, and like its relevance in the United States and whatnot. But that's one thing I really do appreciate with reading books, especially books during Black August, is being able to relate it to the present moment, because there's always something happening. There's always something that you can relate and like find new kind of angles to analyze a text. And one thing we did last year was read The War Before by Sofia Bukhari, and there was a lot of things that were happening last year that we were able to kind of build connections to and kind of build off of as well, which is one thing I really like about our reading groups and things we do internally as well. I know I kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, but what are other things that we're doing in CLP for Black August, Sylvia?
Yeah, specifically we are having an event at the end of the month it's almost the end of the month. This Saturday on the 29th. Yeah, the event that we're holding is called Spirit of Struggle, Discipline, and Resistance Beyond Black August at 6 p.m. at La Peña Cultural Center in Berkeley on Shattuck Ave. And yeah, this is going to be a really great event. We're going to have a film screening of the CBS Tries the New York 3, which is also a chapter in Sofia Bukhari's War Before, for those who have read it. The title is very much in reference to her work. And then we're going to have a political discussion. So after watching the film, people are going to be able to talk together in smaller groups and be able to report back to the larger group. And we'll also have artwork. We'll have some of our own lino prints, one of a kind, made for this event, teaser. So if you want to get a shirt that has a really cool design on it, handmade, hand carved by one of our organizers, come through. And yeah, we're also, this is part of our like media for Black August. So each Black August for our social media, we try to have a series highlighting political prisoners, current and past. So this year we have highlighted the Virgin Island 3, and we also highlighted the Forgotten Ones, which is a essay series by Mansour Owab- Owolabi, and we're working with him, who's a current political prisoner. There's a lot of different work going on, and then also we had a post on in 1971, the FBI raided the HQ of the Republic of New Africa. So it was a very informational post about, how that happened, the repression of the Republic of New Africa, the RNA, the history, its founding, and the different sentences that happened after the raid. And then we also had a highlighted martyrdom of George Jackson and Jonathan Jackson. This was a repost from our 2023 archive, and just talking about, we already talked about their martyrdoms in this podcast, but to read more about that, to learn more, and to see some cool graphics, check out that post. But yeah, our event, it's been a lot of planning, thorough planning, trying to make our events better, and we haven't done a film screening in a long time, so this is like a really important film screening to watch. And if y'all have read it and Sofia Bakari's War Before, that's a really good premise to how the night's gonna go. And yeah, just getting together with people, like-minded folks, organizers, being able to discuss things, being able to tie things to current events, be able to tie things to put the theory to practice, which is like one of the most important things about reading, watching different forms of media, right? So yeah, we'll also have some snacks there for people who are fasting to break their fast. And we're going to have some other organizations. Geraldo, if you wanted to talk about the other organizations that are going to be there tabling.
Yeah, there's going to be the Shaka Shakur Freedom Campaign. We're going to have a table for political prisoners where folks can donate, specifically to Monsieur Owolabi's campaign, his freedom campaign that was just started up this year, as well as access to some of his zines that we're going to be printing. Also some other zines that were made by some of our comrades that we have connections with, that have made zines, and we're going to have those as well. Those are free. All the zines are going to be free, but obviously, like, specifically for political prisoners, like, we would love if people could donate a few bucks, or however much you can, because these organizations aren't nonprofits. They're not the big political prisoner nonprofits or whatever that get millions of dollars, and we never see where that money goes. Trust that your money goes a long way to support these political prisoners. We're also, as I said, Shaka Shakur's Freedom Campaign, which will have, I think we're going to have merch and probably ways to donate to his campaign. I think we're going to have some of his books that were just released this year by 1804 Books, which is it's a pretty good book, pretty short book. I'd recommend it. All the funds that go purchasing a book goes to his campaign, and we need as much money as we can so that we can support legal costs for Shaka Shakur and to make sure that he gets freed. We're also going to have Prison Radio there as well, and Prison Radio was grateful. We're grateful to have Prison Radio to do a recording with Shaka Shakur to get a Black August statement. So that's something that we're going to have at the beginning of the event, kind of highlighting that, as well as some other things that we're going to bring from other political prisoners as well. And then we're also going to have the Anti-Imperialist Prisoner Solidarity Organization there to table and talk about the work that they do to support political prisoners in the so-called United States. Anti-Imperialist Prisoner Support, APES. And we're going to have a bunch of zines. We're also going to have flyers with some of the archival materials that we're able to gather from folks within our organization who have archival experience. And there's going to be an interactive kind of poster, visual guess, online poster that you can interact with that has references to Black August, all the texts that we recommend related to New African Independence Movement, as well as ways you can support these campaigns, as well as get plugged in with contacting and supporting political prisoners. So one way you can do that is obviously tapping in with all the organizations I just said, but you can also support us and political prisoners by coming out to our political prisoner letter writing night and write to the political prisoners that we're talking about today and beyond. And actually, building those relationships and supporting their campaigns, or even being a part of their campaigns. Like, all these organizations need support, and there's so many ways that you can support with political prisoners beyond just, writing or donating money. You can, support with art. You can support with getting the word out. You can support with flyering. You can support with tabling. There's so many ways you can support political prisoners. Because, at the end of the day, this country tries to hide the fact that there are political prisoners. And really, there are political prisoners. There are people that are pushing the politics forward inside the so-called U.S. So that's kind of like what's going to happen on Saturday. We really recommend folks come out. It's at 6 p.m. It's 6 to 9. We're going to have all types of things there. It'll be pretty fun. And it'll be, insightful. It'll be fun in the fact that you'll be able to connect with folks and have political discussion and challenge yourself. But also it'll be good to get connected. But I'll pass it back to Silvia.
Yeah, I think like one of the main points of writing to political prisoners is keeping up with your correspondence. Something that I've noticed is, they're for Black August. I guess I'm going into like, not really a tangent, but just important things when working with political prisoners and respecting them, especially. Like, it's not just like a fun thing you get to do once a year to write to a political prisoner and then never respond, or like give up on responding, or taking a really long time to respond. Like, you're dedicating yourself to the commitment of continuing your correspondence by writing to a political prisoner. I feel like, some people think, oh, we could just have like a political prisoner letter any night because it's Black August. And they just have like one and they send them all out and they have like this huge turnout and, photo op it. I'm not referencing a specific organization, or maybe I am. But, and then, like what happens in September, right? Or what happens in a few weeks. Like, our political prisoner letter writing night is every single month. So, and we really want people to come back. And we make sure we're like, hey, are you going to come back? Like, are you not going to be able to make it? Mm-hmm. Should we drop off your letter at a different time so you can write it on your own time? Because, it's a once a month thing. Maybe they're busy the next month. But, yeah, it's really important. I think something that we hope to do in the future is to expand our political prisoner letter writing night. I have goals of us making it more than once a month, right? Especially for like letter pickup time and just having like more casual events where people can come and be able to write if they are not available on the third Wednesday of every single month at 7 p.m. Right? So, yeah, I think a lot of political prisoners, they've given us feedback where people will write to them and then they don't get a response.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think like a big thing with like letter writing nights is that like it's your expectation. Like if you're gonna write to someone, like it's your expectation to live up to that expectation, right?
It's not like a little pen pal, like snail mail fun thing you get to do. Like this is serious.
Yeah, but also like the thing is like we emphasize people to like it's not just to be talking about your day or whatever. Like that's fine. You could talk about how things are going or in your life, but like you're basically expected to talk about politics. Like these folks are politicized. They are very educated in the politics that they're pushing forward. Is your expectation to talk about that, and especially in Black August too. But yeah, you touch on some important points. It's like like there are orgs that do one-off political prisoner letter writing nights, and nothing comes of it. And our discussions with political prisoners have been like, it's just feel-good politics. It's just like, a little charity thing you can do, at the end of a one-time thing you write to a political prisoner and then you never respond back, and they get all these like letters of support, but like, that's letters of support only go so far. Like, words really mean really nothing. And political prisoners have critiqued that as well, especially when it comes to like just talking about like nonsensical things that are not relevant to their lives or not relevant to the political work that they're doing. Because at times it can just be kind of infantilizing. And so, yeah, that's one thing we want. That's why we have our political prisoner letter writing nights, because it's consistent, it's focused on politics, and it's focused on having political education, not just, for talking with political prisoners, but also with folks at the event as well, to politicize them as well. So that's one thing, and that's something we saw this month. I guess I can go into, and I'll just go into a little bit of like the observations of Black August this year. And probably won't go into this too much. Just like for reference, last year we started our Black August like public events. Last year we had quite a big event, but there wasn't really a lot of other orgs that were doing anything for Black August last year in 2025.
At least externally.
Externally, yeah. Like, there were, like, small orgs doing, like, letter writing nights or that kind of stuff like that. But, like, a larger event that was focused on, like, highlighting political prisoners and, like, pushing the politics forward. There was, like, I think a couple, like, kind of the one-off letter writing nights that we saw, but there really wasn't much going on in terms of Black August. But this year, there's been, and I've noticed it, a lot more Black August events going on. From some principled organizations, like there's a lot of principled organizations, like one of them, Midnight Books, did a really great event on last Friday, August 21st. We'll probably just link the live stream for that, which had one of our former panelists that we had on for one of our events, Abu Haidar. That's not his name, but that's the name he went by, Abu Haidar. And his experience.
We actually, one of our podcasts, he's on it.
Yeah, he's on it, which I think was episode 2 or 3. Very insightful, very prolific speaker. I highly recommend folks to listen to that, so tap in with that. But he talks about Black August and its connection to other political prisoners and Sanika Shakur. Other orgs that did really principled things. I just saw like Black Lantern Books in LA did a really good event. Oregon, New York was doing some really good, cool stuff for Black August. I know Jackie Solidarity Committee was doing a pretty big we're supporting with a huge kind of month-long political prisoner event in New York with multiple different organizations throughout the month with different areas. So that was pretty cool to see. I would love to see something like that similarly, but there's not that many organizations that are aligned in the Bay Area, just to be frank. And then on the flip side, there was like unprincipled organizations or neo-colonial organizations or radical liberal organizations doing Black August things. There were some here in the Bay Area that we went to, and then there were other ones in like other regions as well that were kind of like highlighting political prisoners, but like kind of in a reformist light, reforming prisons, kind of that kind of liberal abolitionism type thing where they just want to make prisons more accommodating, as opposed to actually destroying them from the inside out. That's some of the things we saw. I think this year Black August is grown in terms of people's understanding and knowing that it's a thing, that's a month of commemoration, which is good. I think it's good, for every liberal organization that's putting on an event, there's going to be people that are going to be radicalized, but there are also going to be folks that are going to be pushed towards like liberal abolitionism. So I think it's becoming more and more well known in the kind of organizing spheres, but I think there's more work to be done to push a more radical politic on Black August. There was one thing also I was going to touch on. Co-option is just always going to happen. Like there's really no way to fight it. It's just one of the kind of the immune response of American capitalism is to co-opt a movement. But as long as you are pushing forward with a more principled politic, I think you can kind of create more clear lines of demarcation between liberal and radical or revolutionary forms of Black August. So this is something that I was just thinking about.
Yeah, I think to kind of close out the show, we usually talk about how you can support CLP. Those will also be in the show notes, but I think this month especially, if you have the extra money, if you're not able to make it to our event, we are going to put down different campaigns that you can donate to for political prisoners that are currently locked up, and things where you can learn more about them, how to support them. I think if there's a letter writing night near you, please go to it, or come to our letter writing night in Oakland. We already had ours this month, but next month we'll have it on the third Wednesday in September at 7 p.m. at Oak Stop. It's right off of 19th Street BART, so if you don't have a car, it's literally like a BART stop. So it's very convenient. One of the, I think, easier things to be dedicated to. And yeah, we're going to end off the show with a statement from political prisoner Shaka Shakur, and what he has to say, and something that he wants the audience to listen to for this month, Black August.
Yeah, this is Shaka Shakur, New African political prisoner being held out here in Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm entitled this piece, and I woke up feeling like Jonathan today. Many people have asked me to write something for Black August, and I had to really think about what does Black August mean to me. First, Black August is quite personal to me, having lost my mother in August of 2024 and my only son/child in August of 2001. We say that Black August is not about or necessarily a time for celebration like a bougie holiday. Black August is about honoring, it's about remembrance, and it's about continuity and maintaining the legacy and spirit of resistance. I say I woke up feeling like Jonathan because Jonathan is a beautiful example of a new African revolutionary soldier to be emulated, to be honored for his level of commitment, discipline, and willingness to sacrifice for the struggle and liberation of not only our people, but for the idea of fighting for a better world and a brighter day. I woke up and put in close to a hard 2-hour cross training workout, and like always, made the day a productive and progressive day of keeping PIC, politics in command, a day of thinking, strategizing, and organizing, while we remember and recognize our fallen soldiers, heroes and sheroes, as we remember the events and moments of rebellions and resistance. We should also remember that this is a time of continuity, a time of passing the torch and introducing Black August to a newer and younger generations. As we say, from one generation to the next, and free the land, all power to the people. Peace.
These commentaries are recorded by Prison Radio.